Hi everybody and welcome to Des and Lauren. We're going to be speaking about the why we do the things we do and why we have this channel and why we bring you the information that we do on this channel.
A lot of people have asked questions about that. There's lots of questions in the comments, and we really want to thank you for making the effort to say something, ask something, actually show interest, because often people are so busy in their lives that they don't actually care. So thanks for caring. So we're going to answer some of these things for you.
I also think people feel very overwhelmed with all the changes taking place in the world, not just the country, and it can be quite easy to either feel despair or get despondent or lose hope. But there is hope and there is a plan, and we can follow a different direction in this country. So what we want to discuss are the 10 main themes that are happening in the world, which is the reason for why we're doing the things we're doing and why we do things according to the strategy that we do. You'll notice that we don't have our hearts intent on attacking the ruling party of the country. I always say that there are bigger problems, that the ruling party is just a symptom of a much bigger problem. And as we go through these issues, just try to see if they resonate with you, if you also see them as problems to humanity. So what we're trying to do overall, the big picture, is preserve and defend humanity. You know, that stuff that makes us human, and we'll discuss exactly what we mean by humanity in future videos. But before we get to that, we want to talk about what is a threat to humanity right now, today, in this world. When you look at the United Nations Agenda 21, the Sustainable Development Goals that they have because of that agenda, and if you look at the trends that governments are following based on international organizations, based on data given to them.
So these are consequences of those agendas, and a lot of people might have missed that these things that that Lauren will go through just now, that they are consequence of that. And to most people, when you look at these global organizations and their intentions, it might look benevolent, it might look completely innocent, and you might actually support those things completely. What we are trying to highlight here is where these ideals infringe on our freedom and our right to make choices, how it's influencing our governments and organizations around the world, corporations, etc., to remove your freedom, and where that will end up. And at the moment, I just want to tell everyone that there are thousands of people that are part of what we are doing right now. It's not just myself and Lauren. We are a large group of people, and these people want to remain free. I think that's the main theme, isn't it?
Freedom and humanity is
they
the
believe
reason
in
we're
humanity
doing
as
everything.
well, yes.
But one thing I've noticed when speaking to people about very specifics, when you get into the specifics and you're not just speaking about the big picture, but you start talking about actual specifics, a lot of people will feel like they just need to go with the flow, that they just need to follow the trend. The future has already been designed, and therefore we must prepare for the future and prepare our children for the future instead of changing the future. And that's a huge change in mindset that we need to take place across the country. If you're someone that feels like you need to adapt to changing times, then this channel is going to be very difficult for you to be on. We believe that the world needs to adapt, not us. We need to adapt the world to suit our principles.
We create the future we want. And that is super important, and we do this for our children. We have 4 children. Lauren and I are married. I am turning 52 this year. Lauren is 35 years old. I know a lot of people don't actually believe that, and a lot of people ask us this. So we're a married couple, and Lauren is the founder of the Organic Humanity Movement, as well as hashtag Leave Our Kids Alone. And what you mentioned earlier, Lauren, with regards to people just wanting to adapt, especially with comprehensive sexuality education in the schools. A lot of people have said you need to adapt to the times.
To the changing times.
And you decided no.
In fact, we raise our children very much like 90s babies. They don't have access to phones. They do use the internet a little bit for very specific things, but they grow up pretty much like 90s babies. There's no video games or anything like that, and they're really free and they're outside and they're wild and they're feral, and I like it and I want to keep it that way.
Warriors.
And a lot of parents have said to me, but the world's changing. They have to be on top of all the technology. But unfortunately, what you don't realize is that your children are still developing. And until they've reached adulthood, they should stay very far away from algorithms and from all these things being infringed upon our children. But this is only one facet of many that is threatening humanity as we know it.
Well, one of the things that threaten humanity is that many adults, people of adult age, don't behave like adults, don't have adult attributes, and maybe shouldn't have children, especially if you look at how they just fob off their parenting to cell phones or smartphones. Many kids are raised by smartphones as their parents, and their parents don't really interact with them. And it's even people that believe that it's not okay that their child is addicted to a phone. They don't know how to actually handle that. But I think we need to get to the very important 10 points that you want to lay out.
Yes, see if you've, please put in the comments if you have recognized any of these as potential threats to humanity. I think it's very important that we see it playing out we recognize it when it does play out in our daily lives, when it plays out in local government level and national government level and in the global government level. Because we do indeed have a global government order. It's called the United Nations and many other organizations. So the first threat to humanity is a threat to the access of land ownership. Think about this very carefully now.
Can you please mention the heading of these 10 items? Because I think it's very pertinent.
Oh, so the whole origin story of organic humanity movement is really being a resistance movement, a resistance against the current systems that we are subject to. And access to land ownership is one of the biggest threats. And you'll see that there are two schools of thought in terms of economic systems in countries. You've either got a communist system where the government owns the means of production, or you've got the capitalist system. In both, the access to land ownership is stifled in different ways. And if you look at Agenda 21, which has resulted in the type of densification policies that take place at local government level, you might be able to buy very overpriced property, but you don't have access to a piece of land on which you can build a home, raise a family, and create wealth. That's what we need land for. And the way cities are designed, the way urban centers are designed, are anti-humanity and anti-family. And that access to land ownership, the biggest evidence of a threat to access to land ownership is the proposed smart city systems that are taking root across the world, not just in South Africa, but across the entire world, where everyone might own a property, even if it's through the government. Even if they buy it themselves, you'll own a property, but you'll have no land. So having that land, being able to put your feet on soil that you own, is so integral to protecting and preserving humanity.
And we have 10 very pertinent points.
Well, that's one.
Yes, that's one. I think you've covered quite a few in that one statement.
Did I?
10 very pertinent points of why we need a resistance against what is happening to us at the moment. And the second point is a controlled global currency, transactions monitored and controlled, and freedom to trade, which I think will be a concern for many people. And here cryptocurrency jumps to the fore, the blockchain models, and we're not going to go into the details of those concerns, but you need to think about that.
We can see already in real life how, I suppose more in metros and smaller towns, how cash is becoming very much rejected. You have to pay by card or SnapScan.
And there's shops now where they don't accept cash, which is actually unconstitutional and illegal in our country. And yet they are testing people's resolve, whether people would actually fight against this. And many people in our community have said, I've gone to a shop and they said, we won't take cash. And they said, but you have to take cash. You don't have an option, or you may not trade as a business. And then reluctantly they would take that cash. The problem is that they don't have registers or safes or anything like that
Not anymore. And as a scary thought to think that our children will probably not even know what cash is one day, especially the younger lot. They won't even understand a world where there is cash and money, which is interesting. Everything will be digital. So we want to change that as well. We want people to have the freedom to trade with whatever they see fit. The third threat to humanity is the threat on the freedom of speech and the freedom to gather in a public space, especially in opposition to something.
And this happened not so long ago. And I think a lot of people have forgotten about it. During the pandemic, many people's rights to gather together was removed. And we actually had a High Court judgment that said that people absolutely under the Constitution in South Africa have the right to gather. And it was later overturned in an appeal court and under very dubious circumstances. So we need to be aware of these things, that the legal system in certain instances cannot be trusted for us to remain free. And that's why we need a resistance to these things.
So the biggest threat to the freedom of gathering and freedom of speech, but more of gathering, is the surveillance systems that are being set up worldwide, but at local government level, in partnership with community policing forums and private security companies. All you need is a dictator at the head of that to completely destroy the freedom for 5 or 10 people to gather in opposition to what the government is deciding. It's very easy for the government to outlaw resistance, opposition, and that is a threat to democracy, because in a democracy, the whole point of a democracy is that you have the freedom to oppose authority.
And in the Terrorism Act that was recently signed into law, that is a huge concern, where anyone speaking about changing the current status quo in our government that could be perceived as a threat would be seen as a terrorist, which is absolutely ridiculous, certainly unconstitutional, and hasn't been challenged yet.
So instead of activism, you're involved in terrorism, which is insane. Terrorism has to be described by very defined parameters. That is a threat to human life, not a threat to the strength of a state's ability to control people. In
the future, we will cover all of these points in a lot more detail. But point number 4, the youth are brainwashed through school and internet. Freedom to discover, explore, and create is being stifled. So the environment in which kids are learning, artificial intelligence is deciding what they should look at. And many smartphones with a camera on it is looking at who is actually consuming. So they know when it's, AI knows when it's a child and will actually appropriate specific adverts or even specific clips on different social media platforms for them to consume. And in the schooling system, of course, we have international organizations like the United Nations, UNESCO, etc., telling our education departments what they should be teaching our kids.
In fact, UNESCO's offices are at the Department of Basic Education's inside the Department of Basic Education's office in Pretoria by the Union Buildings.
Absolutely shocking.
So and it's not just the curriculum, it's not just the content in the media. It's the fact that children are spending more and more time working and being inside, instead of being outside, being wild and free, because that's what children need to do. Up until 13, children should be as wild as possibly possible. Yet now, because of the school system and economic system and the nature of families today, children are being engineered to sit at a desk and work. It's the most unnatural position, sitting like we are right now.
Yeah, and government wants it from the age of 4.
It's the most unnatural position to be in, and from the age of 4. And yes, they might do very controlled art, not free art. They do controlled art at school, if you're lucky. I don't know what will happen in the poorer communities, what kind of grade R and pre-grade R they're going to have. But the way our children are being raised is to just turn them into drones for the government.
Serious indoctrination, absolutely.
It's awful.
And it is a new world order being created because we are that order.
But just think about the impact that's going to have on the children and their psychology when they turn into adults. They're going to be so out of touch with humanity. They're going to be psychotic. That's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid that they won't even recognize the creation at all as something beautiful, but rather see it as something foreign. And
or even a threat.
just wait for them to design the future. It will be an apocalyptic nightmare. It will be
yes.
terrible. Okay, so the next, and this is central. This is why it's number 5. It's central to everything. AI controls everything, absolutely everything. We are moving into that arena where humans won't want to. They will choose not to rely on their own brains and their own instincts and their gut feel and their own perception and their own ideas and their own creativity, because human beings are imperfect and what we come up with is imperfect. And we will voluntarily rather choose a program, AI, to make decisions for us. And we have this real threat looming over our heads that governments will turn to AI, corporations will turn to AI to make decisions for them. Therefore, we will not be led by a human with a heart and a soul, but rather a program to get an outcome. And that's not the kind of future I am looking forward to at all.
And the way AI will advance people is it'll help people to make money faster, especially in a digital age. And that is a very easy way for people to adopt it because financially they will gain because of it. And at the same time, as Lauren says, relinquish their freedom. Not just their freedom to act, but to think for themselves.
And be creative.
Absolutely, creativity will be gone. Okay, so next we have smart cities, and Lauren has kind of mushed through some of these points before, but smart cities, we've spoken about it a lot on this channel. You can go and watch those videos. If you're new, it's the first time you hear about this channel, consider subscribing, liking the video, sharing them. But smart cities is something that removes freedom, and that is our biggest concern. I'm not concerned that people want to live in anything that's advanced or technological, unless you're being monitored, tracked, and traced, and your freedoms are removed because of that, diminishing freedoms and control. The control part is very important, because if you can't move freely in and out of that environment or that smart city, that is usually problematic. Imagine children being raised in that environment, not knowing what's happening outside. They might not even know that there is a planet out there. Because inside, AI can make them consume whatever they want. Many dystopian movies have been made to that effect. They have actually predicted that future, that dystopian future where love ceases to exist.
But again, I must say, we mustn't have the mindset of adapting to the times, but rather changing.
We are going to create our future, the future that we want. But this is a threat. People need to be aware of the threat to actually want to act.
For me, the worst thing about smart cities is not just the monitoring, tracking, and tracing. That I can deal with in the face of the worst alternative, and that is the fact that our needs will be rationed. And we'll get to that a little later in this list as well. Water will be rationed, food will be rationed, how we consume, what we consume to nourish our bodies will be rationed.
People will be very happy about that.
How much we can exercise, that will be rationed. So everything we need to be a strong, healthy human being will be rationed because of the climate agenda at the end of the day. And that makes us weak and unable to fight back at all.
And it's that ability to fight back, and that's why I talk about crossing the line. I like to use that line in the sand analogy. When you cross a certain line, you won't be able to fight back or do something about it or resist it. Once certain things have been implemented or been put in place, your ability is gone, and we cannot get there.
The next one is quite a hot topic and controversial in many spheres, and that is the attack on gender. There's going to be a world where there is no real gender, only fluidity. And unfortunately, that is an absolute attack on humanity itself in every single way, and very literally an attack on the perpetuation of humanity. I think throughout ages, you can see that cultures that honor the family unit flourish, and no matter what hardship they endure, they always overcome. A strong nation is built upon strong families because there's a very good reason, a psychological reason for it. When you exist within a strong family unit And yes, a lot of us have grown up in a very broken family, and we understand the negative effects of that. When you grow up in a strong family, you grow up with one thing this entire global agenda is trying to attack, especially with regards to gender. You have self-esteem. And when you have self-esteem, it's very hard for others to exert authority over you. And when you destroy a person's identity by destroying their perception of who they are with regards to their gender, then you destroy their identity in such a way that they are putty in the hands of those that exert control. And we are seeing this playing out now. It's a very tragic situation. I understand there's a lot of people with lots of trauma and have issues and self-esteem issues and self-confidence issues and struggle to find a home or a family in the world, because often our families aren't our families.
We actually spoke about it this morning, the fact that we are transitioning now from a place where there's multiple genders, in eventually hundreds of different genders, to one where there will be none. In other words, a decision will be made. The next phase is there is no gender. In other words, gender doesn't exist, and you can be whatever.
If you're confused about who you inherently are, then you're not going to worry about what the government's doing. You're just going to comply. And I think it's a really good psychological move on the part of those that are trying to wield power for unhealthy means.
At the end of the day, anyone that is becomes an adult should be able to live their life however they choose to, and we need to protect people's rights to do that. There is nothing more to discuss, really.
8, 9, and 10.
8, 9, and 10. Do you want to do all of them?
No, you
The
can.
government and corporations have too much power. Okay, we need freedom to live. So during the COVID-19 pandemic, there were many different trains of thought, but it's the first occasion where worldwide governments exerted power that they feel they had to exert because of an international body, like the United Nations and the World Health Organization, which is a subsidiary of the United Nations, actually prescribing to countries what they should do, and all the member states basically adopted what the World Health Organization said and just implemented it in their countries. Now, the World Health Organization doesn't think of your human rights or what is in your constitution. They make broad statements, sends it out to governments, and it's then for governments to decide what they are allowed to do. The World Health Organization is not going to force you or punish you or anything like that. However, what happened was governments used that opportunity because politicians love to exert power over people. And this is where corporations worked with government, often encourage government or try to push government into controlling what the people did for their own personal gain.
Corporations were the make or break of freedom. And
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, that shows tyranny. But it's also the fact that...
Not all of them, but many of the large corporations.
It's the fact that we also give our power away through how we spend money. We give our power away to corporations, and it's actually something we should really delve into, because it happens on a daily basis. Every South African does this because we haven't figured out a way to overcome the current system that's keeping us oppressed. And then the freedom to think is under attack as well. Our freedom just to think. So not freedom of speech. I'm not talking about it. I'm not even talking about the freedom of association. I'm talking about the freedom to think.
What you're allowed to think even.
And it's our fault. No one's forcing us. But the fact that we are consuming consuming mental stimulation at a rate never before seen in the history of humanity is the problem here. Yes, there are some positives that we can research information, gain knowledge very, very quickly. But on the other hand, we can be influenced by being fed information that tugs at our heartstrings for the wrong reasons sometimes, changes our ideology, maybe makes us more complacent, maybe neutralizes any motivation, energy, ambition we have to change the system or live in a different kind of way. So that constant, I see it as propaganda. I see TikTok, for instance, as a massive propaganda machine, making anyone that uses it useless to society. And social media, just by its very nature, has very similar effects. So the freedom to think is under attack. And then lastly,
But I like how you actually define that our minds are controlled through algorithms, because that's a very accurate way of putting it. Algorithms that are literally AI driven. And we have to consider algorithms all the time at the moment, even on this platform, YouTube, because the algorithms drive what is shown to who. Okay, the last one. Our food is making us weaker. I think a lot of people are very passionate about this topic, that there's an agenda to only produce food, even fake food.
There's so many layers to this topic.
Yes. So we've already spent 25 minutes discussing this with you, and I really want to thank you for sticking with us. And this last one, food making us weaker. Why can we not be weak? You cannot have a resistance if you are weak, if you are not able to be mentally fit, physically fit, to actually do what you need to, put in the physical work to resist these things.
Yes, so we see it played out in many, many ways, but all of these 10 points together just paint a picture of how our freedom to just be, to be free, and to just live naturally is under attack. And I envision a different future for our children than what the world is trying to push them into. And I think a lot of people resonate with that. We are human beings. I don't want to be synthesized with...
Humanity first.
Yeah, I don't want to be synthesized with any kind of technology. I want to be free. And I think that we have to take the responsibility upon ourselves to change the future. We can't wait for someone else to change it, or we can't just go with the flow. We actually have to be conscious about what we want and then work towards that.
And this is what we are doing. I mean, you came up with rock solid plans to actually enable this in the political realm as well as in civil society. And maybe we can just summarize what that is for everyone. And then in future, we will go into more detail into all of these points.
Well, in the quickest summary possible, on the one hand, there's the Organic Humanity Movement, which is the political side of the plan. There's a parallel mission, that's the political side of it. And that is basically to claim South Africa's sovereignty, because I don't believe we've ever had national sovereignty. We've never had national strength. We've never had a national identity.
We did become nationally strong at one stage militarily, but it wasn't for everyone.
No, we didn't have a unified culture, identity, or anything like that. So for the first time ever, we want to create a South Africa, which I hope goes hand in hand with the name change. Let us know in the comments what you think South Africa should be called.
What should we call this new reality that we can create?
Yes, definitely
in the Southern African region.
We want to change the government system, the government structure, and we want to change the political system, two different things altogether. And we just want to change how everything works from a government and political perspective, so that the systems that we have don't oppress us like they currently are, but rather liberate the human being. And that's exciting. I really love that work. It's what I'm busy with every day. That's my 9-to-5 job. No, it's my 24/7 job.
And you don't earn any income from it whatsoever. So you absolutely do that because you believe in it.
It's a labor of love, and it's for the future of my children. And then, because raising my children in pure privilege is not enough to safeguard them a good future. We need everyone to be uplifted and move forward towards humanity for future generations to stand a chance.
Okay, so that is the political side. So the citizen side.
The citizen side is probably, I'm not sure if it's easier or more complicated than the political side, but it's working with people across the world, but we're starting here in South Africa, giving people the tools and the knowledge they need to be able to withstand challenges and difficulty, to be able to maintain civility when there's problems. Because I think the instability of South Africa is the biggest threat looming over our heads, because that's when extremists on all sides of the spectrum,
crazy people,
will try to gain and exert control. So rather than let that happen, we want citizens to have the knowledge necessary and the skills necessary and the organization necessary to always, under all circumstances, be able to govern informally, unofficially, when the country is not in a state of being governed.
And I think that is super important for us to be able to maintain that civility, and we do that through the Omega program. That's Omega with an H, Organic Humanity Movement, ending global or government atrocities. And there's so many atrocities taking place around the world. Tell us about some of these atrocities that you're aware of in the comments. How do you feel? What do you find atrocious in what is happening? And we do need to use the right terms. We often use corruption instead of terrorism or theft or whatever the case may be. We give softer words to things that are much worse.
Mm-hmm. The other thing with the Omega, the citizen side of the plan, to what we call Liberate South Africa, and hopefully this can multiply across the world as well. The other function of it is to maintain a functioning true democracy, a democracy where, not the democracy we have now, what we have now is a fake democracy. But when citizens are empowered, they will never be able to be controlled.
And how do we empower them?
Knowledge and skills and training. Training.
So yeah, knowledge and skills, training, and that's what we'll be providing.
Knowledge is power after all. So if the power is in the hands of the people through knowledge and skills, never again will we be dictated to, whether it's by a national government, whether it's by a global government.
Or some dictator that rises up.
When you put that hand in hand with a sovereign country that has the military strength to defend itself alongside international allies and relationships with the same ideology and the same mindset, we are literally going to create something so new. And we can be rest assured that our children will grow up in a future where they can have children in a healthy, natural, human, organic environment.
And a lot of people think the earth is going to end in a year or 2 years or whatever. And we will put out a poll, in fact, tonight to all the subscribers on this channel to take part in, to tell us what you think of the world. We choose to work as if things continue forever, plan for that. If the world has to end in 2 years or 5 years, then so be it. At least we'll be working towards a solution for our children. So many people are stuck because they believe that any work they do is futile. And I know you're very passionate about this.
Yeah, it's a topic for another video, I think, because I could probably speak for an hour on this. I'm a Christian. I've read the Bible back to front. And I love the scriptures, but there's not a chance in my mind that I think the second coming is going to happen in a year or 2 or 10 years or around the corner. There's no ways. I can live my life in a way that is hiding and waiting and praying and doing nothing. I want to make an impact now. And even if I'm wrong, even if the second coming is tomorrow, I'm still at peace because of the work I'm doing. So I'll rather act and live as if there's still thousands of years ahead of me, then wilt away like a coward thinking that someone's going to come save me tomorrow.
And yeah, and at the end of the day, other people would have to help those people if things get tough for whatever reason. So don't make yourself the person that is a problem to others. And I made a video recently where I said, what kind of refugee would you be? And I want you to think about that. And another thing is, please go and look at the other videos on this channel. There's thousands of videos that you can find on this channel. Many of the videos you might not see, so come and visit us regularly to see what we have loaded, so you can watch the content that we've put out.
Yes, I think this is probably going to be the last video in this space. So we're moving soon.
We're moving tomorrow, in fact.
Yes.
So we thought that we could leave you with this video explaining what we are doing, why we are doing it. And I really want to thank Lauren for everything that she is putting in. You know, I don't know many people that will put in the amount of work that she is for no financial reward. And every time we look at our children, we know that it's absolutely worth it.
Always. Wouldn't change it for the world. And I think this is something a lot of people can find purpose in, and I hope that you do. And you'll see that all the videos that we bring to you fall into these themes that we spoke about tonight.
And we'll bring you more details around the training, and the preparations for that will start in September this year. There's other training that we do give. Go and join our Telegram channel, because on there, on the Telegram channel, you will be able to find all those details, as well as on Facebook. We have a group, we have a page. You can just go and join those, and then get those updates.
And if you've watched up to this very end, let us know what you're doing this weekend in the comments. We're obviously moving. We'd love to know what you've got planned.
What are you doing this weekend? And I look forward to getting to know you. If you are someone that is new to this channel now, we've met many of the subscribers on the channel in person. We've toured around the country. For those that don't know, we've had lots of meetings. We go on hikes together. We have picnics together. So it's a community that is active on the ground.
And growing.
And growing all the time. And hopefully we can meet you and join with you. And people from all backgrounds, religions, walks of life, cultures, creeds are welcome. As long as you want freedom.
It's sad that that even has to be said.
Yeah, it is sad.
But yes.
Yes.
Okay, let us know what you're doing during this weekend. Let us know what you think South Africa should be called when we finally change the system.
I can't wait for that.
Can't wait for that either.
Yes.
We'd love to hear your feedback.
And look out for the poll tonight.
Yes, and remember to like, share, and subscribe.